Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome to the final episode of the Alien Force Retrospectives. And as I mentioned last week, I'm doing one more while I'm done watching Ben 10 Alien Force that I've seen every episode of the series over the past year. There is still one more video that I wanted to do, and of course, some of you may be wondering, well, what is it that you're going to be looking at? There's not really much else left to look at. I could talk about the video games, though I don't really do that because they're not part of they're part of the show. They're part of the franchise. They're not actually part of the show, so to speak, but I'm getting off topic. The thing is, there is one more thing I wanted to talk about. One more thing that, honestly, just by looking at it here, in of all places, actually might annoy some of you people, but I wanted to do it just to kind of wrap this all up, and I figured because of the DVDs, then why not look at it? And that I also do have my own reasons for it, which I'll get into in a minute. So again, with all this build-up going on, you're probably wondering, well, what am I looking at? What am I watching? What did I watch for this final bonus video of the Alien Force Retrospectives? Well, for this video, I am going to be looking at the first episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Fame. And the reason I'm looking at it here, instead of, say, doing an entirely separate vlog series and talking about it there, is for two reasons. The first is, and I think this is gonna kind of annoy some of you or make you think why, is that I'm not planning on doing a retrospective series for Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. At least, not now. Not at this time. And that's mostly because that's one of the reasons is I didn't collect Ben 10 Ultimate Alien on DVD like I did with Ben 10, like with classic Ben 10 and Ben 10 Alien Force. By the time Ben 10 Ultimate Alien started being released on DVD, I was still collecting Ben 10 Alien Force, and I didn't finish that collection until I was in high school. I couldn't buy my original set of DVDs. I got when I was a kid. And then the last two I bought on it, and then volumes 8 and 9 I bought on Amazon, same with Destroy All Aliens. As such, I wasn't able to complete my collection till later, and even then I only bought the last two DVDs to finally complete that collection. But once I finished the collection, I didn't really feel that much of a reason to... I didn't really have much of a reason to want to go back and collect all of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, mostly because... one, it would take a lot of time to do, and I don't really have that much money to spare for that. And two, at that point I wasn't interested anymore. Because, quite honestly, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien was a show where I was kind of where Ben 10 was finally was losing me, admittedly. And that's not to say that that's the case, that it didn't start that way. But as it went along, it definitely wasn't there definitely wasn't something I really found myself invested in. But I'll get into those thoughts when I'm done with the video. And again, you were probably wondering, well, if you're not going to be doing a retrospective on Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, well, why even do this? Well, as I said, this was a bonus on Volume 9 of Ben 10 Alien Force. The final Volume 9 of Ben 10 Alien Force has 8 episodes on it. 7 of them are the final episodes of Ben 10 Alien Force, and the 8th is the first episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, is just kind of a sneak peek. So, I figured, while I may not be looking at Ben 10 Ultimate Alien in full, again, at least for now, I might as well do this as a nice little bonus, and at least talk about Ben 10 Ultimate Alien in this context, and explain my thoughts on it and the episode. So, for all of you who are disappointed, I sincerely apologize. I think you might... if you were looking forward to seeing me talk about Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, I do sincerely apologize, but this is just how I feel, and I will go more into that when I finish talking about this episode, but I hope that you can find some entertainment in this video. So, with that 4-minute intro out of the way, let's actually talk about the episode, and straight into the point. The beginning of the episode has Ben's identity get outed. Like, the very first thing they show is what looks like it's a video showing all of Ben's previous aliens from from Alien Force to even one even going as far back when he was 10, or at least 11 when he was Wild Mutt. Pretty much, the video says that all the aliens that all the aliens are Ben, and pretty much ever since the video has been uploaded, it's been being shown on news nonstop. So Ben, Gwen, and Kevin are seeing it, and before I continue, I actually do like to talk about Gwen and Kevin's designs. Kevin is actually back to his season 1 and 2 design, black t-shirt with a gray shirt underneath and so forth, because gray shirt. And Gwen's design is actually kind of a mix of her of the first 2 seasons and her season 3 design, as it's the same general outfit that she wore in season 1 and 2, only the shirt is red and she has her hair in a ponytail, which I'm okay with, which I like. But either way, pretty much it's been showing non-stop, and so Ben believes that this is, of course the group thinks this isn't really a good idea, that maybe Ben should lay low. But of course, when Ben tries to go outside and maybe go hi to Julie, he's being swarmed by reporters. And personally, I believe that at this point, because the video did not show Ben transforming at all. Like, they just showed footage of the aliens, and then they said that it was just Ben. That it was just Ben, that all of them were Ben. So pretty much you could just say it's all rumors, that it's all just Ben. Like, someone just said that, and of course, someone just said that, and so Ben could probably deny it. But Ben quickly tosses that out the window as to get rid of the reporters. He goes Humongosaur right in front of them and just roars to scare them off. As such, he manages to go over to Julie's where they continue watching the news, and we see that there's one particular reporter who's actually kind of sticking it to Ben. Pretty much Ben's J. Jonah Jameson Will Harangue. This guy who keeps showing all these footage of Ben. He's showing all this footage of Ben. He says that he's either a threat or a menace, and it's just getting under Ben's nerves as well as me, because these characters do kind of annoy me. So they decide that they need to go out for a drive, and what are they going out for a drive in? Ben's car. And before I can stop, and that I'll get into that at the end of talking about this episode. But Ben actually was able to keep his car from Ben 10 Alien Swarm. And that's not the only thing that was carried over, but again, we'll get into that when I'm talking about Ben 10 Ultimate Alien as a whole. So they're out driving. Ben's just trying to find a way. Ben's talking with Julie how this really could get to him. But as they're driving, they're stopped by Kevin and Gwen, and Kevin says that if he wants to unwind, he knows the address of the person who outed him. So the group goes to Ben, Gwen, and Kevin wind up going to the address of this guy, whoever this guy is, and he lives in this looks like a danky old apartment building, and the only one to stay behind is Julie, because she's kind of the only one with sense, as Gwen points out. And they manage to get to the apartment that's listed as the address, but when they knock, rather than finding some super mastermind, some guy who's able to piece it together, they find a kid. A kid named Jimmy Jones, who's probably no older than 8 or 10. And pretty much he's a fanboy. Like, he runs a website that talks about all this alien stuff. He's got pictures of all of Ben's aliens hanging on the wall. And in his website, he even wears a jacket that looks a lot like Ben's, even with the 10 stitched on there. And that's pretty much the reason he's doing, and pretty much what's going on is, and the reason he was able to out Ben was because he was able to document. His website specializes in finding all these pictures of it, finding all these stories of alien activity on Earth, and he noticed that most of them were coming from Bellwood, and that most of the aliens from Bellwood had the Omnitrix symbol on them, the hourglass. And so after looking through enough material, he managed to find pictures of Ben with the Omnitrix, and he was able to deduce that all the aliens in Ben were one and the same. So that's why he created, and the reason he created the video is because Ben's done so much good stuff that he thought that he would appreciate it, that he'd have his name finally be out there. Of course, they do tell him that while he had good intentions, in the long run, this probably wouldn't be a good thing for Ben, even though Ben's a little more tantalized with the fame and fortune that could come with being a celebrity. However, as they're talking with him, Gwen notices a picture of another alien that's there, one they don't recognize. This weird thing that looks like that's red, has a heart, it looks like it has a red shell, it kind of has it has red armor, red helmet over its head. And of course, Gwen asks Jimmy about that, but Jimmy says he doesn't know. He thought that was Ben. And so they ask if they have anything on it, and the only thing he has on it is actually a secret government video of this very alien breaking into a space station in Orlando, and it's taking out two guards with two blasts of water from its hands. As such, the group realizes that this is unmarked alien activity, so they should go and investigate. With Kevin suggesting they go in the rust bucket. Ben and Gwen are just confused because why would he want to drive down to Orlando? But it turns out Kevin actually had other things in mind. As he directs them towards towards a ship, towards a field, a shipyard, I think. And in it is a spaceship, a green spaceship that it was apparently standard Plumber issue, but Kevin decided to soup it up, and it's now essentially the second or third rust bucket if you want to go by the fact that they call the rust bucket that Max drives the rust bucket too. But bottom line, it's super advanced inside, and they're able to go to Orlando very quickly. When they get there, though, they are being shot at by government planes, by government soldiers. With Kevin shooting back and Ben saving the soldier that parachuted out, and which ultimately leads to Ben getting arrested. But Ben managed to get out when Gwen and Kevin managed to actually meet the general in charge and flash their plumber's badges, which again is still a little iffy to me, because apparently the plumbers are just that big, that they're still that big of an organization that every government on Earth recognizes the plumbers. To which I respond with, I thought they were really secretive, but again, maybe they had a secret base in Fort Knox, so maybe all the governments of the Earth know about them. So I don't know. That's iffy. It's iffy. You could challenge it if you want, but you could probably make the argument that maybe the governments do know about it. But since one of them is in Mount Rushmore, so I don't know. Bottom line, by flashing their plumber's badges, they are able. It signifies who they are. So the general in charge of everything tells the bailiff to let Ben out, and not only that, he actually has a job that you want. He has something that he actually has information on the alien they're looking for, even recruiting them to take care of it. It turns out that the reason the alien's been attacking this NASA facility is because they've been building a ship called the Orion. Essentially, their first attempt at light speed travel. Pretty much the Orion. How this works is the engines for the Orion are pretty much a set of nuclear bombs that once the ship exits Earth's atmosphere, is cleared of Earth, the bombs will go off and just jettison the ship right into space. Of course, and it's supposed to be ready within a few months, but unfortunately, this alien that's been attacking has been stealing parts from the ship and thus slowing down their progress. As such, he wants Ben, Gwen, and Kevin to take care of it, and of course, and they do stick around. And when this creature attacks again, they go to confront it. Only when Ben tries to go alien, the Ultimatrix doesn't respond. In fact, it starts glowing yellow and saying it's picking up an unregistered genetic signature. But whatever's going, pretty much as such, Ben's put on the sidelines while Gwen and Kevin try to fight it. And what I kind of find, and another thing of note that I actually like is that while Kevin now has his original absorbing powers back, a nice little thing that he got to keep from his time as an amalgam, as Terra, Kevin will call him, is that when he absorbs stuff, he can now reshape his hands into weapons. That's the first thing he does when he fights the alien, is turn his hand into a mace and slap and smack him, which I like. Unfortunately, the alien managed to overpower them, and then when Ben tries to go confront it, he gets his butt handed to him too. Only the Ultimatrix lets out a yellow light and scans him. And if you know Ben 10 and you know the yellow setting, pretty much what it did is that it sampled this alien's DNA and put it into the Ultimatrix. Bottom line, once it scanned the alien, it's now working again. So Ben is able to go Chromastone. The first time we've seen Chromastone ever since Vengeance of Vilgax, and I'm not counting Secret of Chromastone because that was Sukalite, not Chromastone officially. And he still gets his ass handed to him. Bottom line, when Ben wakes up, the general says that the aliens stole the engine for the ship, and since they openly said that the engines were nuclear bombs, that makes her that's not very good. As such, the group is able to use the computers in the rust bucket to find the nuclear bomb, which is located in an underwater cavern, and when they arrive, they find the alien trying to implant the bomb into what looks like a ship. And so Ben is able to put it together very easily that he's not stealing this for some plan of world domination. He just wants to build a spaceship to get off this rock, which the alien confirms. But unfortunately, they still can't let him do this because while they understand why that he wants to go home, he wants to get off Earth, that his engine's a nuclear bomb. So if his ship goes off, it will destroy most of Florida and kill millions. So they have to stop him. So he fights back. He throws a live soldering not soldering iron. I think maybe soldering iron. I'm awful at words. I need to read more books. This is worrying me, honestly. This is really worrying me. Bottom line, he throws a hot soldering iron at Ben at the group. Ben manages to jump out of the way, but Gwen has to throw up a bubble just to keep herself and Kevin safe. So Ben goes Spider Monkey to fight this alien. He still winds up wiping the floor with Ben very easily. So Ben decides that if he can't do it as Spider Monkey, he's gonna up the ante. So he transforms into Ultimate Spider Monkey, and once again, it looks like a stronger design. Though unlike Humongosaur and Swampfire, this ultimate alien is actually a lot. It does almost does not resemble the original form in any way. Like with Ultimate Humongosaur, he had the same body type and everything, and he had the same body type and build and everything, and you could tell it was still Humongosaur. And for Swampfire, he still kind of resembled a plant, just more of a tree, and even having similar properties. But the only thing that connects Ultimate Spider Monkey with Spider Monkey is how they're both blue, and they're both technically spider monkeys, except Spider Monkey was like a chimp, and Ultimate Spider Monkey is a gorilla with a jaw that unhinges to shoot webs, and in place of his extra set of arms, he actually has 4 spider legs. As such, with the added strength, with Ultimate Spider Monkey's added strength, he's able to beat back this alien and tie him up, and even knocks him into the soldering iron, shocking him and causing him to shut down. He then webs the alien up, and Kevin is able to disarm the bomb. As such, Ben transforms back, and they finally ask the alien who he is, and he reveals that his name is Bivalve, and that he's from the Andromeda Galaxy. He's from a planet in the Andromeda Galaxy. And the reason he's here on Earth is because he and 4 other aliens from the Andromeda Galaxy were kidnapped by someone named Agrigor. And when they made it to Earth, thankfully, the group managed to escape from Agrigor, but they all crash-landed on Earth in the process, and upon landing, they were separated. As such, Bivalve just was trying to jury-rig a ship to get himself home. And as such, while the group is still not willing to trust him because he was willing to sacrifice all the people of this, so many people just to get out of here, they at least agree to let the plumbers know that he's here so they can send him back to his home planet, and they say that when they come across his friends, that they'll help them too. As such, the episode ends with Ben going to school, afraid that everyone won't like him because of how the news has been saying about him. But upon going inside, it turns out he's pretty much just given applause because all the students of the school know about all the good things he's done, and if we're going again by the gauntlet, at least Cash, JT, and at least a small number of them should know Ben has superpowers. But we get one more scene afterwards, as we see Bivalve still hanging in the cave waiting for the plumbers, but then someone shows up. And that someone is Agrigor, this kind of light pink, kind of dark pink, almost red guy with horns on his head and a black jacket and a staff. And the last thing we hear in the episode is him apparently shocking Bivalve and taking him. So, on the whole, the first episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien is pretty damn good. Like, it actually, unlike Alien Force to Ben 10, this actually doesn't take place that much later than Ben 10 Alien Force. At most, maybe like a few weeks or something, at least enough so that all the main characters have had a birthday. So, Ben and Gwen are now 16, and Kevin is now 17. And it's obvious, and it's still the same animation style, still the same continuing story. And what makes it good, in my opinion, is that it keeps enough things the same, but changes, but also makes things different enough to kind of have the same feel, have a new feel. For example, right off the bat, we now know what's new. For starters, now Ben's secret is out. Everybody knows that Ben is a superhero, that he has a watch that can transform into all these aliens. That is the new shtick, And that was part of the thing that the part of the selling point for Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, that Ben's secret was out, which honestly as a kid I was excited to hear, because one of the things they set up in Ben 10,000 and so forth was that the whole world knew about Ben's secret, so they all knew Ben was a superhero. So the fact that they were doing that was showing that Ben was just getting a step closer to becoming that type of hero, to becoming someone that the world, becoming that type of hero that saved the day and helped people, etc. On top of that, there is still some nice change. On top of that, it does help set up some more supporting care, kind of some more what this change will bring. That the public's reaction to Ben is mixed at best because of this, and we even get the introduction of Will Harang, which is supposed to be the comic relief, because this guy is meant to be intentionally annoying, because he's the guy that is always shaking his fist at the hero and saying he's a menace. Like I said, he's the J. Jonah Jameson to Ben's Spider-Man. So okay, so yeah, and even he even becomes a, and we even get more of the, we even see, again, something it also sets up is the new status quo for the episode, what the first storyline. Like, we get this in the introduction of Bivalve. We get the introduction of Agrigor. We see Bivalve, and he says that he was stuck on Earth with 4 other aliens, and it actually is nice. And and something I also like about this episode is, and we even see some more changes, like with the rust bucket, and like with the new rust bucket, and like the group now has a new mode of transportation to get around, which I like. And I like the fact that Kevin was the one that whipped it up. And on top of that, I like seeing, and I already mentioned that, the new aliens and so forth, the four Andromeda aliens, etc. That sets up the kind of storyline it is, and even just kind of how it plays out. And then there's Jimmy. Jimmy does become a regular character later on, and again, something that I think this episode does well, at least, is that it kind of levels out the personas from seasons 1 and 2 and season 3 of Ben 10 Alien Force, namely Ben's persona. But like, Gwen and Kevin are fine; their personalities stayed in character. They stayed relatively the same between all 3 seasons, but this one seems to level it out. With kind of the goofy Ben that you'd want to see as 10, while them also having the more serious one, which I'm okay with. I like seeing that. Again, we also get to see more of the Ultimate transformations, and again, I like Ultimate Spider Monkey ish, because again, what I like about, because he again, is more powerful, but I don't know. But again, I think the only reason he's called Spider Monkey is because he just resembles Spider Monkey by a little. Again, so, hold on a second. Sorry about that, had to take care of my dog. You want to go outside. Anyway, I was talking about Ultimate Spider Monkey. And while I'm on the subject of the Ultimate transformations, this episode also does kind of have a subtle allusion to one of the reasons why the Ultimate transformations aren't used very often. Like, something you could easily you can kind of poke fun of is that with the Ultimatrix's new features, why doesn't Ben go Ultimate almost all the time? Well, they do it, kind of explain it in a couple scenes. The first in a line, and as a second as a hint. Because when Ben like I mentioned how in the beginning Ben turned into Humongousaur to scare away the reporters around his house, thus confirming that he is that alien, that he is a shapeshifter. Kevin then says that he could have used one of his, that he's surprised that Ben didn't use one of his new Ultimate transformations, to which Ben responds with, "I wanted to scare them, not me." Which it seems a little strange, because with this kind of power, you'd think maybe Ben would want to use it more. Which, considering Ben's attitude, in season 3, maybe that would be the case. But the fact that maybe he going Ultimate kind of scares him would kind of explain it. And when we see Ben go Ultimate Spider Monkey in this episode, there is a little hint of what's to come. When Ben transforms back, first he has to undo Ultimate, going back to regular Spider Monkey, and then going back to his human form. But upon doing that, you see kind of a flash of something in Ben's eye. His eyes flash pink briefly, and then he just goes into a trance for like a couple seconds before he regains himself. When you see that, and then combine with the line, it does make you think the Ultimate transformations may be a little risky to use, as while they're powerful, they can't be it may be safe to not abuse them. You don't know what will happen. But just from the way Ben seems to react, and even that one little scene, maybe you should think, yeah, maybe we should save them, at least for a while. And that's not to say, of course, are there any flaws to the episode? Admittedly, yeah, but they're kind of minor. As I mentioned, there's that little continuity hiccup where all the governments of the world know where the plumbers are, though again, you could probably cite as many sources that could confirm that was always the same. Again, hold on. Again, dog, sorry about that. Anyway, you could cite as many sources as you wanted from the classic series that could probably add some credence to that. And on top of that, there is still it is kind of odd that a kid could have deciphered Ben's identity, though this is a kid that also managed to get a secret security cam footage from a government facility, so maybe he's got some skills. And what makes it, and of course, there's the I think there's also kind of the warping of chromostones slightly, because I've watched this episode, and how he was beaten was that he was thrown to some electrical wires but being sprayed by bivalve, and I thought he was a conductor. I thought he could absorb that. Like, is Chromosome just kind of like the Worf of the show? Like, he talks a big talk, but then when push comes to shove, he gets knocked aside? Like, I'm just kind of thinking that. It's just kind of weird. Like, again, and I have the Secret of Chromosome to fall back on, because Sukalite was able to resurrect all Petropia, and that when he fought Vilgax overpowered him very easily. So, I don't know. Again, there's also the whole that the number of kids. Of course, there's the whole number of kids should probably know Ben's identity as well as Cash and JT. But again, these things don't ruin the episode for me. I think the situation and the new change in status quo, while still keeping enough the same, is still pretty good. It actually does have a nice solid story that helps lay the foundation, helps sets the tone for what the show is going to be, what types of situations Ben will be dealing with from now on, and even even hints of what's to come with Aggregor and Bivalve. So on the whole, I think the first episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien is a pretty good start to the show. That it carries enough weight, it has some fun action, is goofy enough so that it's still fun, but still serious enough so that you're able to understand the situation, that you understand the weight of the situation. It has clever writing, good animation. It's, on the whole, it's just it's a good start to the show. So, yeah. But of course, that makes you wonder, well, if you like the first episode, then why don't you want to go back to it? Maybe relive those memories. Well, it's because, quite honestly, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, that's pretty much what it was. It started good, and while I was a teenager when the show was coming on, actually, that was it. I was a teenager when it was starting to come on again. I was getting older. Hold on one more second. Again. From now on, I'm not pausing this for anything. If my dog wants something, he can wait. Sorry about that. Anyway, as I was saying, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien started good, but beyond the first section of stories, it fell apart. I'm not kidding. Like, I mentioned how the show kind of did start with that. It started well. Like, the first I mentioned the stuff, like, let's go back to Aggregor. The first story arc of the show was surrounding Aggregor and the Andromeda aliens. Why did he bring them to Earth? And the whole thing with the Andromeda aliens is that they were these 5 aliens that weren't in the Ultimatrix database because they weren't from the Milky Way galaxy. And as such, it also opened opportunities to get 5 new aliens on the roster. In fact, that was one of the things that they pushed when they were promoting Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. There's an old video I have on my channel called Time to Go Ultimate, where during the hype for Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, they posted all the they had a site dedicated specifically for it, where they were able to show all the ultimate transformations and all the new aliens that were going to be featured in Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, including the 5 Andromeda aliens, which were Water Hazard, which is based off Bivalve. They were Terraspin, a giant turtle alien that could shift its body into a fan and create giant gusts of wind. Energy, an alien made of complete radiation that had to be contained inside a biosuit. And Armadillo, an armadillo alien that could dig into the ground and reshape its arms into drills and so forth. And Amphibian, this blue jellyfish alien that could shoot electricity and phase through walls and so forth. Those are the 5 new aliens, and each of them were based on one of the Andromeda aliens. And so, when it came to each of the episodes with the Andromeda aliens, it would start with Ben meeting the Andromeda alien under different circumstances. Sometimes they were coming to him for help, sometimes they were causing a problem, sometimes they were even going out of their way to attack them. But during each episode, when they got close, the Ultimatrix would react and scan the alien, and at the end of the episode, at the end of the episode, Aggregor would come by and pick them up again. And it was actually interesting because while you were able to tell what was going on, you wanted to know more of what was happening, and we do ultimately learn learn more about Agrigor. We actually do have an episode where the second alien we meet is the alien they get for Terraspin, whose name Galapagus. That was his name. He explains that Agrigor is an Osmosian like Kevin, and that he kidnapped these 5 specific aliens for a reason. And of course and then when Ben meets the alien they meet for Amphibian, whose name I don't remember, I'm sorry to say, they do actually learn that the reason Agrigor was able to track them is that whenever the Ultimatrix reacted to the alien DNA, Agrigor was able to track that signal and follow it all the way back to the alien. As such, that was the reason that why Ben was being attacked in the first place, and even leading to. And we even learned more about Agrigor and what he was planning to do. It turns out the reason he was kidnapping these 5 specific aliens was so he could absorb their powers. And we even learn another thing about. And it turns out, it's not just absorbing the powers like when Kevin absorbed the powers of the old. Actually, scratch that. It's like when Kevin absorbed the powers of the Omnitrix. Except in this case, he absorbs them completely into himself, becoming a mishmash of all 5 aliens. And you're wondering, why these 5 specific aliens? What is he planning to do? And so we do learn what his goal is. It turns out Agrigor is after something called the Map of Infinity, a 5-piece little trinket that, when assembled, will lead whoever has it to the source of ultimate power. And where each piece of the map is hidden, one of the 5 aliens that he absorbed has abilities that can counteract it or can get through it. Essentially, Agrigor is able to get it. He wants ultimate. In other words, he absorbed all this energy to get ultimate power, and it was interesting. And what makes it better is that they show Agrigor is a very powerful threat. The group has when the group first learns of Agrigor, they think he's just gone. But when they actually encounter him, they show he's very powerful. He's a capable fighter. He's willing to do whatever. He really is. He's very strong. And when part of the shtick with Amphibian is that when Ben encounters the alien that becomes scanned for it, he gets trapped in the Ultimatrix. So when Agrigor learns that Ben can become this type of alien, his plan isn't just to find that alien again. He thinks, oh, you can turn into this guy? Well, okay, then you'll do just fine. That is his goal, and he's powerful enough so that he can do it. And he was powerful enough to do it. It was very good. And on top of that, when they were trying to beat Agrigor to the piece of the Map of Infinity, he kept outmaneuvering them. He got every piece, and he came very close to getting to it. Pretty much, here's where this was the ultimate payoff for the story. It turns out the Map of Infinity led to a place called the Forge of Creation, an area outside of the universe that was the home to the Celestial Sapiens, aka Alien X. It turns out that his plan was to absorb the powers of a baby Alien X. And because Alien X is all-powerful, he can alter the very fabric of reality. With all that power at his disposal, he would pretty much become a god. He would be unstoppable. As such, with the help of Paradox, the group is able to go to him and even winds up. We even get a nice team. We even finally get a team up with older Ben and 10-year-old Ben, and it's a fun episode. It's one of my favorite episodes of Ultimate Alien, and it leads directly into the next story arc because to stop Agrigor, Kevin absorbs the energy of the Ultimatrix, becoming a new amalgam, an amalgam of all the aliens in the Ultimatrix. Every single one, and it is powerful, it's scary, and what makes it even better, he becomes a villain, again. And what's the reason he becomes a villain, even though he's had all this character development? Because they established in the show, in this version of events, that absorbing energy causes Osmosians to go crazy. And that was the reason why Kevin went so nuts in the first show. When he absorbed all that, he absorbed energy on a regular basis, and absorbing all the Omnitrix energy has made him more unhinged. And so, now that he was normal, he was recovering, but then the instant he absorbed all the energy from the Ultimatrix, he goes straight villain again. He stops Agrigor, but he absorbs all of his power, and even considers going after the Alien X baby himself, and the next few episodes are Ben and Gwen trying to track him down as he goes after old scores, goes after people that got on his nerves, and at one point even goes on a power binge as he goes to all their old allies and starts absorbing their powers. It's all very good. It's all really good and has nice build-up, nice pace, and that's one story leads into the other. The only problem with it, I would think, is the ending, which admittedly felt a little rushed, but it did lead to some but it leads to a nice drama where Ben had to consider actually whether he had to off Kevin or consider helping him. That was interesting, and I thought that was really good. But it was after that I think the show started to fall downhill for me. And I think it might be because of Dwayne McDuffie, and not because of what he did do, but rather what he wasn't around to do. Ben 10 Ultimate Alien was Dwayne McDuffie's last show because, unfortunately, while making it, he died. This was his final show, and unfortunately, I think after he died, the show just seemed to go downhill. Like, after his unfortunate death, the episodes weren't grabbing me as much. Some of them just felt a little too silly, or they felt too abrupt. They felt like they were pandering too much in some areas, and even the plotline they were setting up, it didn't feel like Agregor. In fact, it didn't feel like it should have been part of Ben 10. It involved this outer god creature called the Dagon that apparently the Forever Knights had defeated long ago, even meaning the original Forever Knight Sir George. This old man who has lived for centuries because the power of another invention Aspith created, a sword that made him impenetrable to the Dagon's power. And admittedly, it's kind of like it felt like they could have big stakes in it too, because the way it ended. But unfortunately, that storyline I felt wasn't built up just as well, and even the intermingling episodes didn't feel as good. It felt like a mess. The stories weren't as good, if you ask me. There weren't, and I'm not saying that all of them were bad, because there were some good episodes here and there, even a payoff to kind of what was kind of scary about the ultimate transformations. And there are even some episodes here and there that many people agree sucked that, admittedly, I like. In fact, I will go on record, and again, I'm not trying to bash opinions here. This is openly mine. All of you are free to disagree here, because I'm in the minority here. I liked their iteration of Ben 10,000. I'm sorry to say it, but I liked it. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all, and I can understand why a lot of people don't like him. I honestly do. But please don't hate me for stating my opinion. It is just my opinion. You are all free to dislike this version, but I was okay with it. I thought it was cool. Just a version of Ben that didn't need to transform found a way to activate the ultimate feature in his human form that allowed him to access each of the powers by just slapping the Ultimatrix symbol. Again, I can understand why people don't like it, and even thinking it over, it doesn't really feel like it should be Ben, because part of what makes him cool is that he can transform into all these aliens. But again, I personally enjoyed it, even though that episode was very flawed. But that's for more other people to pick apart. But that's just kind of how it was. The show's writing just kind of went downhill, and I personally blame it on the unfortunate death of Dwayne McDuffie. And it's kind of a shame that this is the show that was his final legacy. That this was the show where this show was his swan song. And what's sad too is that it feels like it started good. It felt like it carried many of the strengths from Alien Force and was able to carry it over into the next one. Even finding a way to intermingle the stuff with season 3 and seasons 1 and 2 into a more coherent story. But unfortunately, after his death, it seemed to be more reliant on the stupid, silly stuff. And the only reason I continued watching was a hope that that eventually it would get better. That every new episode I thought would be just the turning point. But unfortunately, that hope never paid off. There were some episodes here and there that did kind of help raise it a little, but eventually I was disappointed with Ultimate Alien, and it was because of that I didn't go out to collect it, and because of Ultimate Alien's disappointment, I was hoping for Omniverse to be the show that brought me back in. And to Omniverse's credit, when I first started watching it, I could see the building blocks there. The animation style is honestly hard to get used to. I will still say that. I even made a vlog. I made a vlog of the first episode of Omniverse way back when it first premiered. But admittedly, when I actually do kind of sit down, and again, for Omniverse's credit, it was creative in some regards, and it felt like there was an attempt to return it back to form. Again, there was the stuff with Kevin's dad. They were trying to reason things out, and many of the new aliens introduced in Omniverse, I admit, were very creative, very fun, and the fight scenes were fun. And they did have some interesting ideas for stuff. There was a story arc involving multiple versions of Ben from across time and space working together, and I watched those episodes. I thought they were good. I watched the episodes with Albedo, who for some reason they started calling out Beto. I don't know. I'm still gonna call him Albedo because that's what he was first called. And I liked that stuff because it had him. We even saw a new Dark Doppelganger. In this case, a device called the Nematrix, which contained all the alien DNA of every Omnitrix alien's predatory species, which I thought was interesting because it made for an even greater threat. But I think the biggest problem for Omniverse was that it didn't know what it wanted to be. Because some of it felt serious, some of it felt goofy, but unfortunate. And other things I felt were too goofy. Even for classic Ben 10. Like, it felt like it had the idea, it had the building blocks for that, and it had the idea. It knew what it wanted to be, and like it knew what it was trying to be like. But if you ask me, it didn't get there, and that's kind of the sad part of it. I eventually stopped watching Omniverse was the show that broke the camel's back for me. I was able to watch all the way up to the Incursion Invasion, and once that was done, I stopped watching on a regular basis. As I mentioned all the way back in the Ben 10 Retrospectives prologue, I did return to Ben 10 Omniverse for some episodes, including the multiple Ben stuff, because I loved that stuff. But Omniverse was the show that finally killed Ben 10 for me. Well, okay, killed's not the right word, because I'm still a fan of Ben 10 somewhat. And even rewatching this show, even rewatching the first two shows for the past 2 years, has kind of rekindled that love in me, because the classic series and Alien Force were good. They were different types of good, but they were still good and entertaining. They reminded me of what I loved about the show. Creative writing, fun characters, good action, compelling stories, comic book fun. That's what I love about Ben 10, and that's what these two shows had. While Alien Force lacked in some regard, they made up for it with more matured characters, actual progression, some good stuff. And again, that's kind of what it was. And I'm sorry, and if you're still a Ben 10 fan, that if you still enjoyed watching Ultimate Alien and Omniverse and even the new reboot show that's on, all more power to you. I hold nothing against you, and it's your opinion. I'm not gonna bash your opinion. There's no reason to bash opinions. We are here to share opinions. We're not here to force them. We're here to share them. We're here to art, and if we argue about them, I just suggest we let bygones be bygones, or at the very least, if you can manage to convince someone, then then congrats, you got someone else on your side. That's something that I think, and that's just and that's a good thing, a very good thing, and I don't think that should be taken away from you. If you genuinely enjoyed, if you were able to keep watching through Ultimate Alien and Omniverse, I'm glad. I am really glad. But I'm sorry to say that because Omniverse was the show that kind of started to decline, that was the show that started to lose me. That's the ultimate reason why. And it wasn't a bad show. And again, it didn't start bad, but it just kind of got there. But as time went on, it just petered out until eventually what was once good just became to me. And that's just kind of the sad thing the sad thing. I still enjoy the classic Ben 10 series. I still enjoy classic Ben 10, and I still enjoy Ben 10 Alien Force. I enjoy the beginning of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. But right now, as of this moment, this is where I finally kind of hit the brakes on all the Ben 10 vlogs. Again, I may end up going back because I may end up looking at the rest of Ultimate Alien on a later time. But for now, this is where I'm done. But if I can get anything out of this, is that I'm glad many people came by to watch this, because I've seen the views, and while some of them are mine because I'm that sad, many of them were not, and while the numbers weren't as high, I'm glad that people came by to watch these vlogs about some 22-year-old lazy bastard who sits in his room or in his kitchen and talks about a show about a kid with a watch that can transform. And I'm glad that all of you people liked it, and rewatching these shows did kind of rekindle that old love in me. And it was really nice, and it helped. And while some stuff didn't age as well as I hoped, other things other things gave me some new perspective. I just kind of like to sum up, and on general, classic Ben 10 for me was a silly show. Rewatching it, I saw more of the sillier aspects. But what it made up, but what it lacked in seriousness, it made up for fun in good writing, fun characters, amazing action, an honest to goodness love of superheroes. It loved the fun campiness of them. It loved the serious aspects. It just wanted to have fun. It provided entertaining experience for its viewers, and that's what it succeeded in doing. And while it wasn't perfect, it did have some flaws here and there. It was a fun show that I think if you showed to your kids, you could easily you could probably get them to enjoy it. And Alien Force, admittedly, watching it over the past year kind of raised my opinion of it a little. Not a lot, but enough so that I kind of respect it more. While it did lack the more fun aspects of the classic Ben 10 series, it made up for it with more mature writing, actual progression for their characters, more compelling story arcs, and a more complex perspective on issues. It wasn't just good guy versus bad guy. There were more layers to it. There weren't just villains there. Sometimes there were victims. Sometimes there were people who were on the wrong path. Sometimes, and even when it did try, and at least for the first few seasons, when it tried integrating stuff from the classic series in, it did an alright job. Going back to the Voided episode, I loved seeing Dr. Animo again. I thought he did well. While I will still think that I still claim that season 3 of Alien Force is the weakest part of the show, it still had its fair share of good moments, and while it was kind of pandering, it still made an attempt to try and recapture it while still trying to do it, and did succeed in some parts. Not completely, mind you, as you saw my complaints throughout this series, but it was able to get through in that regard. And that's just really how it was. And again, Alien Force does have a share of problems. Retcons up the wazoo. Some episodes that clash with continuity from the classic series. Them saying magic doesn't exist, even though they have a handful of episodes where they actually have magic. We go back to Time Heals in Charm's Way. Haley was with me there. You all saw it. I'm getting off topic. It still gets on my nerves. But bottom line, it was a joy rewatching these episodes, and it was a joy sharing my opinions with all of you. And I'm glad all of you stayed to watch this vlog series with me, and I'm thankful for that. It may not have been a lot of attention, but I'm still glad that some people came and were genuinely and stayed to watch. To everyone out there, there's many who continued staying by me, I thank you. I'm glad that you came to watch this all with me. So, with all that said, where do I go from here? Well, I'm not done with the vlogs. Well, yeah, I'm not kidding. While I'm done with Ben 10, I'm not gonna stop doing vlogs. I'm gonna just instead, at least for a while, I'm gonna focus on other shows from my childhood, more nostalgic shows that I remember finally watching as a kid. That as time went on, my opinion would change. My opinions could have changed about. Or maybe even some current shows that I haven't seen that I want to check out. I think as such, at least for the next few vlogs, I'm going to be talking about other shows, and I even have plans for another next show I plan to be doing a vlog series on. And if you're wondering what that is, you're gonna have to tune in next week. I will give you some hints. It is a superhero show. It is a cartoon. But it wasn't on Cartoon Network. It was on another network altogether. So, if you know what it is, you can make a guess, but otherwise, if you want, you're going to have to wait till next week to find out what that is. So, again, I thank you for tuning in with me through the last 2 years. If you were just here for Ben 10, I'm sorry to lose you, but it was nice having you along for the ride, so yeah. That's all I have to say. I'm Samuel Johnson. Thank you for sticking by me, and I'll see you next time. Take care.